فمحمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللهم
صل على محمد
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وله الحمد في الآخرة وهو الحكيم الخبير والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث إلى كافة الورى شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته أئمة الهدى ومصابيح الدجى الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا
اللهم صل على محمد
أما بعد فقد قال إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
ثمرة الشكر زيادة النعم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Over the last couple of nights, we've been examining that famous tradition from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib sallallahu alayhi
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
in which he describes the highest reason for worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as being that of gratitude and shukr. And he says that out of the three groups, there are those who worship Allah out of fear. They are the worshippers, or their worship is that of the abid and the servants and the slaves. And then there's that group who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of desire for reward. Their worship is the worship of the tujjar and the merchants, because they are trading their worship for some reward. But then he goes on to say, and this is in effect what we have been discussing the most, the highest level of worship is that of those who are considered to be free. They are free of all fear and all desire of reward, and they are those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shukran, out of gratitude for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, what He has conferred on them, and the fact that He deserves to be worshipped for who He is Himself. In other verses, in other traditions, the word hubban is used, out of love, or ahlan is used, meaning Him being worthy and deserving of our worship. So we were discussing this, and then we built upon this tradition a number of other discussions. Discussions such as, with regard to the Quranic traditions, what are we told as to thanking others? Then we looked at the whole area of who deserves our thanks the most. And we looked at the health benefits of leading a life of gratitude. We also saw that there is no contradiction between having a niyyah of qurbatan ilallah and worshipping Allah out of fear or out of reward, wanting some reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nor does it mean that if we do worship Allah because of some reward or because of fear, our worship is valueless. It doesn't mean that at all. It has value, but our worship shouldn't stay there. Our level should always be rising, and we should gradually work ourselves up towards the ultimate level of ibadatur ahrar, the worship of those who are free. We also looked at the whole concept of wa'ad and wa'id, threats and promises in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this technique to enable us to grow spiritually and to develop. And then we had a look at a very moving, touching example of an imam reciting a dua where he expresses this type of worship, the worship of ibadatul ahrar, those who worship Allah because they are free of all other wishes and desires. So this is where we've reached it up to now. Tonight, I would like to bring this whole discussion to a close. Tomorrow we'll be looking at other areas, and in particular we'll be looking at again the stories of the prophets and how they enable us to counter and to come up with lots of solutions for common day problems and issues that we face. But today, in order to complete the discussion on shukr and in tribute to this great tradition that we have been building on over the last couple of nights, we will be seeking to answer the following questions. First of all, what blessings did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confer on Nabi Sulaiman ala nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam? And indeed, tonight's discussion will look at this great prophet, and it will link us very nicely for the remaining discussions to come on the following nights, where we'll be looking at the prophets and their stories in the Quran. Second question is, how did Nabi Sulaiman use all of these blessings that were given to him by Allah? Third question will be, what lessons in gratitude do we gain from the story of Nabi Sulaiman and the ant? And then finally, how is it possible that our blessings increase the more we are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Inshallah, we will begin our analysis with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So with regard to the first question, what blessings did Allah confer on this great prophet Nabi Sulaiman? We are told that he was blessed with a vast kingdom. In fact, the kingdom of Sulaiman is renowned among the Abrahamic faiths for being so vast. So he was given lots of wealth and possessions, but also miraculously he was given certain things. In the Quran we are told, for example, that he was blessed with a river made of molten copper. Also, not just material possessions and things like that, but with regard to knowledge and special powers. So for example, Nabi Sulaiman, he had in his army birds and jinn. And he was blessed with the knowledge of being able to talk to birds and other creatures as well, which we'll see later on, inshallah, this evening. But with regard to the jinn, they were also part of his army. The jinn, they would dive in the seas and they would find for him hidden treasures. They would work for him. But also, he had the ability to now control the winds as well. So Nabi Sulaiman, he was able to tell the wind where to blow, how much to blow gently here and at what particular time. And not just that, he was able to utilize the wind to travel very far distances on his ship. So we are told that the wind would carry his ship on a morning to the extent of how much it would otherwise enable him to travel over the course of 1 month. So on one morning, he would be able to travel on his ship because he had control of the wind, the extent that otherwise he would travel over the period of 1 whole month. Same would happen in the afternoon. He would be able to travel on his ship because of the control of the wind, the length that it would otherwise lead him to travel 1 whole month. So in effect, he would be able to travel in 1 day, 1 morning, 1 afternoon, the distance that it would normally take him to travel over the course of 2 whole months. So these are just some of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred on this great prophet. The control of beings like birds and jinn who were in his army, the control of the wind, the fact that he was able to speak to the birds and other creatures. He had amazing possessions like that river made of molten copper and that vast kingdom. But now let's look at the second question. How did Nabi Sulaiman utilize all of these blessings? And inshallah we will derive a number of lessons from this with regards to our duties, with whatever we possess and whatever Allah has granted us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala. So Nabi Sulaiman, despite having all of these things, he never utilized them for leading a life of luxury or living a life of extravagance, of a wasteful type of life. Rather, he used all of these blessings in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll give you some examples. So, we are told that all of these things, they were there for him. And certainly people, when they would look at him, they would see all of these things. Like his clothing. His clothing were very regal. But underneath those regal clothing, he would wear coarse clothing. Then, despite having all of that wealth and all the food that money could buy, he would feed the poor people and his guests with meat and with very fine white bread. But he would provide his own family with a lower quality bread made out of whole grain wheat. He himself would even eat at an even lower level of standard. For he would eat bread, for example, made out of coarse barley wheat. So for his guests, for the poor at the highest level, for his family at a lower level, for himself at the lowest level, he would spend his time, he would feed the poor, and he would try to avoid company with the wealthy. This is how he would use all of his blessings in the service of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One incident that we are told about in our tradition happens with this farmer. So as Nabi Sulaiman was marching, he was with his entourage, this farmer happens to see him and his entourage from a distance. When he sees him, this farmer says the following words. He says, God has given the son of David a great kingdom. So now, remember I said that Nabi Sulaiman had control over the winds. So the wind conveys the words of that farmer to Nabi Sulaiman. When Nabi Sulaiman hears this, he gets off his mount and he walks over to the farmer. And he says to him that I have walked over to you to warn you not to wish for what you do not have the strength to bear. This is a huge lesson for us. Nabi Sulaiman is telling him, in effect, be careful what you wish for. And we had spoken about this on a previous occasion, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us. Are we going to be able to discharge our responsibilities when He gives us all of these blessings? In Surah Anfal, for example, we are told in verse number 28, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةٌ. Know that your possessions and your children are a fitna for you. They are a trial for you. These are all blessings. Everything that we have, they are all blessings from Allah. But know that they are also trials for you. Are you going to be able to answer Allah on the day of resurrection? How you spent all of these things that Allah gave you? What did you do with your children? How did you raise them? How did you spend all of this amwal and possessions that Allah has granted you with? So Nabi Sulaiman is telling this farmer that I have come here to warn you not to ask for that which you don't have the strength to bear. Be careful what you wish for. But then he goes on to tell him this other very important piece of advice. And he says that a word of praise to Allah uttered in sincerity is better than all that has been given to the house of David. For whatever is uttered in sincerity in praise of Allah, that will last for an eternity, and what has been given as the kingdom of Sulaiman will inevitably perish. So what had Nabi Sulaiman guided him with? And what is the guidance for us here? What he's saying is that better than all of our possessions, better than all of the blessings that Allah has given us, is a simple word of praise for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uttered in sincerity. Remembering Allah, dhikr of Allah, but out of sincerity is better than everything that He gave the son of David, the house of Dawood. Because that will be lasting, whereas what we have, what we think are great possessions, if they are not used in the service of Allah, they will inevitably perish. Remember that verse that I spoke about before. It's in Surah Nahl, verse number 96. وَمَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. What you have, that will come to an end. But what is with Allah, meaning that thing that has been done out of sincerity, even if it is one Alhamdulillah, one word of praise, but our sincerity, or using the blessings that Allah has given us in His way, is better than all of the other things. Because that is baq, as the verse tells us, that will be lasting. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. So these are some of the things that we learn about how Nabi Sulaiman, not that he shunned all of these blessings, no. But whatever he had, he used it in the service of Allah. So this is what we must do as well. We must use everything in His way and inshallah try to increase in our remembrance of Allah, but with utmost sincerity. But now let's look at the third question. And that is, what lessons in gratitude do we learn from the story of Nabi Sulaiman and the ant? This story is a very famous one. It is reported in Surah Namal, verses 17 to 19. First, let's just have a recap of this story. Nabi Sulaiman is marching, like I said, he had in his army not just human beings, but birds and jinn as well. So he's marching with birds and with jinn and with human beings. They come to the valley of the ants. There is an ant that says something, and he's addressing the rest of the ants there. This ant tells the rest of the ants that go inside your dwellings, lest Sulaiman and his host, they trample over you while they are unaware. Because they won't see you, they won't recognize that you're there. They might just trample over you, and they won't even be aware of what they are doing. So now, this is where all these lessons come in for us to bear in mind. Let's inshallah spend a few moments doing tadabbur over this one verse, Surah Namal, verse number 19. We derive at least 5 lessons when it comes to shukr and how Nabi Sulaiman responded to this ant statement. The verse tells us, فَتَبَسَّمَ ضَاحِكًا مِنْ قَوْلِهَا. Nabi Sulaiman smiles, amused at the words of the ant. This smile is a smile out of gratitude. He's very humbled by what he hears. Despite having all of that kingdom and special knowledge and power, Nabi Sulaiman, the great Sulaiman, son of Dawood, is humbled by the words of a small ant. So the first lesson we get in gratitude is that we must be grateful for all the small things in life, not just the big things that we come across. Sometimes when we do shukr, we just think about the big things, and of course we must do shukr of them. Our parents, our knowledge, our experience, our health, our possessions, our iman, our wilayah for Amir al-Mu'mineen, the fact that we are followers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we love the Quran, yes. But also we must do shukr of what we consider usually as being small things. If Nabi Sulaiman, with all of that kingdom, all of that special knowledge, all of that special power, is humbled by the words of an ant, he smiles out of gratitude, then surely it's telling us that we must be grateful for the small things that we come across as well. Otherwise, he had all the reason in the world to ignore those things. What didn't Allah provide him with? So, this is the first thing. Being grateful for the small things in life. In fact, when we look at it like this, it's all about living gratefully. All the moments of our life, we should consider them opportunities to express our gratitude to Allah. These are magical moments. We should not let them pass. Living a life of gratefulness. Are we actually doing that? Are we thankful verbally, in our hearts, and in practice, which we'll come to later on? The highest level of shukr is shukr amali, where we are grateful not just by saying it, not just by having it in our hearts, but practically demonstrating gratefulness in our character. One tip that we can do with regards to everyone around us is to make a list, as I mentioned earlier. Keep that journal, that gratitude journal, making a list of at least 5 things on a daily basis. Also, thanking people. Make a list of all those that we need to thank. Whether they've done something small for us or big for us, it doesn't matter. We see in the example of Nabi Sulaiman, we should thank for all our blessings, small and big. But apart from people, we should thank Allah for things, for items that are around us. I wonder if we do that. One tip that I would like to share with you all, which is something that is very humbling for us to do on a daily basis, is to focus on our senses. Let's utilize our senses much better than we have been doing, inshallah. So, when we come across something that smells nice, let's take a moment to really appreciate that. A rose which is really fragrant. That's using our senses in a grateful way. Then we come across, for example, something that we see. A loved person, our parents, our spouse, our children, a fellow mu'min, a fellow mu'minah, someone we love. We must do shukr. That is using our sense of sight to do shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our taste buds, simple things. We might eat a piece of fruit. Have we actually appreciated the textures of that fruit, the sweetness of it, the juiciness of it, the taste of it? What about all the other things that we eat over iftar? Sometimes we've just had iftar and actually we have hardly appreciated all the tastes and textures and variations of what we've eaten. Sometimes we're so engrossed in what's taking place in our lives, we've just eaten a meal and we hardly appreciate what we've eaten. Cold water, what a blessing that is for us. Next time we take a sip of that, or tea, or coffee, as some of us prefer. Let's appreciate what we are eating and drinking. What about our sense of hearing? Well, when we hear the Quran being recited, the dhikr of the fazail and the masaib of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the du'as, it could be on the radio, on the internet, it could be in the center. Let's inshallah take a moment to do shukr and be grateful for it. So, this is just a small tip, but it can be so effective to concentrate on our senses. Every single one of our 5 senses, let's use them to inshallah increase this life of gratitude. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So then, that's the first lesson, to appreciate even the small things in life. The second lesson we gain from the story of Nabi Sulaiman and the ant is what the verse goes on to tell us. So, in this verse, after Allah describes him smiling and being amused by the word of the ant, he recites this dua. Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mata allati an'amta alayya wa ala waliday. وأن أعمل صالحا ترضى وأدخلني برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين. He recites this dua. What a beautiful dua in terms of shukr. Let's have a look at the lessons from this. First of all, he says, Rabbi awzidni an ashkura. Now, what this means is that, oh my Lord, inspire me to give thanks. This is telling us that the tawfiq to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is from Allah Himself. Now, there's a conundrum I'd like to pose for you all. How then can we possibly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If every thanks that we do is a tawfiq from Allah, that tawfiq requires a thanks. So then, if we thank Allah for the tawfiq to thank Him, that tawfiq requires a thanks. And then that tawfiq requires a thanks, and so on and so forth. It's infinite regress. It means it's a chain of thanks without an end. So how can we possibly thank Allah in the way that He deserves to be thanked? Isn't it impossible? Rabbi awzidni an ashkura ni'matallati an'amta alayhi. Oh Allah, inspire me, give me the tawfiq to thank you for all the blessings that you have given me. Now, the answer lies in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. As I was been talking about Sayyid al-Sajadi of the last few nights, let me turn to one of the great du'as I mentioned in this work. This work that has 54 beautiful du'as from Imam Sayyid al-Sajideen, Imam Zainul Abideen salawatullah wa salam alayhi. Then after the 54 du'as, like I said, we should try and use this work to help us with our daily issues. One of those issues is that we want to try and increase in our gratitude. So let's have a look. Is there a dua? Let's go through the contents pages. There's 54 main du'as. Then there are 14 addenda, which is split into two. 7 additional supplications, and then 7 du'as for each day of the week. Then there are 15 whispered prayers that I mentioned last night, one of them. When we look at the contents list, yes, we find that indeed there is a dua. There is a whispered prayer known as the Munajatu Shakirin. The whispered prayers of those who are thankful. Let's have a look at how the Imam deals with this question. How can we possibly thank Allah fully when even the tawfiq to thank Him requires another thanks? Look how he addresses this issue in this dua, Munajatul Shakirin. He says, وَنَعْمَاؤُكَ كَثِيرًا. The blessings that you have conferred on me are too great. قَصُرَ فَهْمِي عَنْ إِدْرَاكِهَا. My understanding is unable to perceive all of those great blessings. فَضْلًا عَنْ إِسْتِقْصَائِهَا. He said, let alone reaching their utmost depths. It reminds us of that verse in Surah Ibrahim, where we read, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. Even if you were to enumerate the blessings of Allah, you will not be able to count them. Then he goes on to say, this same question that we've been asking, فَكَيْفَ لِي بِتَحْصِيلِ الشُّكْرِ. How can I attain thankfulness? وَالشُّكْرِ إِيَّاكَ يَفْتَقِرُ إِلَى شُكْرِ. For my thanking you requires thanks. فَكُلَّمَا قُلْتُ لَكَ الْحَمْدِ. Every time I say for you is praise. وَجَبَ عَلَيَّ لِذَلِكَ أَنْ أَقُولُ. It becomes wajib on me. It becomes incumbent on me to say, لَكَ الْحَمْدِ. For you is praise. Meaning that how can I confer thanks on you whenever I even say Alhamdulillah, lakal hamd, then that also requires another praise, because you have given me the tawfiq to praise you in the first place. So now, what is the answer? The answer, my brothers and sisters, is from another tradition we read, this time from Imam Jafar Sadiq sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he narrates that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Nabi Musa, ala nabina wa alihi wa alayhi salam, O Nabi, O Musa, thank me in a way that I deserve to be thanked. Nabi Musa says to him, O Lord, how can I thank you to the level that you deserve to be thanked when every thanks deserves another thanks? I'm unable to thank you at that level that you deserve to be thanked. You know what Allah replies? He says to him that now you have thanked me. For now you know that for every thanks requires another thanks. So the answer is admitting to the fact, first of all, there's two parts to the answer. Admitting to the fact that we are never able to fulfill the gratitude we owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are never able to thank Him up to the level that He deserves to be thanked. That's first. The second part of the answer is that just by acknowledging the fact that we are unable to thank Him fully is the highest amount of thanks that we can give Him. Acknowledging that we are unable to thank Him fully and that every thanks requires a thanks. So when we get to this position, in fact, it's a very important way of us rising spiritually. It's a technique that the urafa and the spiritual masters and the teachers of akhlaq use a lot. When you are able to admit your weaknesses in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you are able to do this ajiz, that you are unable to even thank Him up to the level that He deserves, this in itself is very valuable. That expression of weakness, of acknowledgement, of admission is very valuable in the eyes of Allah, because now you are a true servant. A true servant doesn't have anything from himself. Whatever he has from his master. And therefore, if you are able to do that, it is a brilliant step towards rising spiritually. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad. But then he goes on to say, not only for his blessings, but وَعَلَى وَالِدَيْهِ, and also the blessings that you have conferred on my parents. So why is Nabi Sulaiman thanking Allah for the blessings that he has conferred on his parents? Don't his parents have their own duty? Isn't what Sulaiman has already received from Allah enough to thank Allah for? Well, perhaps it's because of this. Not only because many of the great blessings of our parents are passed down to us, not only because it is a way of fulfilling the rights that they have on our shoulders, that we are now actually thanking Allah on their behalf, but perhaps a deeper reason is this. Our parents were blessed with so many blessings. One of them was to have a child. That child happened to be us. So when we are thanking Allah for the blessings that are being bestowed on our parents, one of those is the blessing that they had of having a child, of having us. So in effect, we are thanking Allah for our whole existence. So when Nabi Sulaiman says that I thank you for the blessings you have conferred on me and on my parents, perhaps we can look at it like this as well. I'm thanking you for all of my existence and my entire being. So that's the third lesson. The fourth lesson is, he goes on to say, أنعمت نعمتي التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضى, and also enable me to perform righteous deeds. Righteous deeds that you will be pleased with. Allahu Akbar. This is telling us that the highest form of shukr is when we do shukr in action. Not just by verbally saying shukran lillah, but having it in our hearts, but also performing righteous deeds. This is a higher level of doing shukr, where we express our gratitude in the actions that we perform. It's like this. If somebody was to give you a gift, and you took that gift and you used it in the way that it should be used, in the way that they wanted you to use it. So they give you a tablet. You use that in the way that they would like you to use it, and you thank them for it. They know about how you're using it. What are the chances of them giving you another gift in the future? It's going to be much higher than if you were to just use it in a way that they are not happy for you to use it, to look at things that they are not happy for you to look at, and to be ungrateful. What are the chances of them giving you a gift in the future now? Much less. It's known as the law of attraction and repulsion. When we look at this, we'll see later on how it increases our ni'mah. We'll look at that in a few moments' time. But the fifth and final thing that he asks in this dua is وَأَدْخِلْنِي بِرَحْمَتِكَ فِي عِبَادِكَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Oh Allah, admit me by your mercy to be among the Salihin. Now, it is even at a higher level still. Not only thanking Allah verbally, not only thanking Allah for all of our blessings and the blessings of our parents, not only thanking Him in action by putting all the blessings He has given us, our knowledge, our time, our health, our wealth, our experience, putting all that in the way that He is happy for us to use it, but now we ask Him to make us among the Salihin, not just doing Amlu Salihat. What's the difference? At one stage we say things like إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ فَلَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونَ. For example, in Surah Teen, that those who do Salihat, they perform good deeds, and they have Iman, for them is an everlasting reward. Very good. Nobody is knocking that. We must perform Salihat. But the highest possible level is to become Salih, to be among the Salihin. What's the difference? When we perform Salihat, Salah is an attribute of the actions we are performing. It means our actions are Salih. They are righteous. We do something good, so our action is good. But it doesn't mean we are Salih all the time. When we ask to be among the Salihin, it is an attribute of our souls, of us ourselves. It means we are permanently and constantly acting in a righteous way, because we ourselves are Salih, not just our actions. When we do Salihat, we can do evil things as well. We can do bad things as well. We are not Salih yet. Just now and then we will do Salih, sometimes a lot. But we are not amongst the Salihin. That is different. Now our whole existence is characterized by the quality of righteousness. So this is the highest level possible, that it becomes a fixed trait, not just a temporary state. We become Salih. So now, let's look at the final fourth question. And this stems from the tradition that I recited at the beginning of this majlis, from none other than Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, where he says, ثَمَرَةُ الشُّكَرِ زِيَادَةُ النِّعَمِ. The question was, how does being grateful increase in our blessings? What is the relationship between doing shukr and having more of the blessings of Allah? Well, the Imam says the fruits of shukr is ziyadatul ni'am, is increase in blessings. How does this work? Is what I alluded to earlier. It's the law of attraction and repulsion. When we put into practice in the way that Allah wishes us to use our great blessings, then it attracts more blessings for us. Just like the example of that tablet. When we are using it in the right way, the person knows that yes, I gave it to him as a gift. He's using it in the way that I wanted him to use it. He's more likely to give us more. And the converse is true as well. When we don't use our blessings in the right way, then we are not likely to receive more. Attraction and repulsion. It happens all the time, every single moment of existence. The two can't go together. How can we at the same time attract and repel? It's impossible. We cannot attract and repel at the same time. If we want to attract, we must use our blessings in the right way. This is what is meant by increasing in our blessings, by using our blessings in the right way. In fact, when we look at this, we see that it is the highest level that the Imam himself had got up to. When in that tradition that we will be discussing over the last 2 nights, he says, his ibadah and the highest level of ibadah is the ibadah of the ahrar. Those who are free because they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purely hubban because they love Him, purely ahlan because He deserves our worship, and purely shukran because of our gratefulness and our thankfulness to Him. As a summary, therefore, before we recite a few words of Masa'ib, today we completed our discussion on shukr in honor of that great famous tradition from Mawla Amir, where he talks about the highest level of worship is that done out of shukr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We saw how Nabi Sulaiman was blessed with so many blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the vast kingdom, the special knowledge, the special powers, but he always used them in the service of Allah. And in this way, he was able to discharge the responsibilities on his shoulders in the best possible way. So it's not the fact that we have less or more, it's how we use them and using them sincerely in the way of Allah. Then we looked at the whole story of the ant and Nabi Sulaiman, and we derived 5 lessons to be first appreciative of all the small things in life and the big things. Secondly, that every thanks requires a thanks, but we get around that by admitting we are unable to thank Allah fully for all the blessings, and secondly, acknowledging that every thanks requires a thanks. That way, just like the Imam himself told us, we will have thank Allah at least as much as we possibly can. Then, thirdly, the lesson we gain is that when we pray for Allah for the blessings conferred on our parents, it could be a number of things, but it's also the blessing of our whole existence. Fourthly, the fact that when we talk about Amal Salih, it is a great blessing, but it is not at the level of Salihin. This is the 5th and final lesson, that we must try and strive to become Salih. By performing Salihat, of course, we do righteous deeds, eventually that becomes more and more established as a permanent trait, not a temporary state. Sallallahu alayhi On the night of Qadr, one Quran descended and one Quran ascended. The Quran Samit, the silent Quran, came down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the Quran Natiq, the speaking Quran, went to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Persian poet puts it so beautifully, Muyassar nagardad be kesi in sa'adat, be Ka'ba biladat, be mihrab shahadat. This distinction was not conferred on any person apart from Mawla Amir. What distinction? To be born in the Kaaba and to be martyred in the mihrab. We can say therefore that Mawla Amir's entire life, from start to finish, from where he was born in the house of God to where he died in the house of God, was always with God. From the very first moments to the very last moments, even after he was struck that fatal blow by Ibn Muljam. What does he say? Usually when people are inflicted with these type of injuries, they will forget everything else. They will just focus on how painful this is and the wounds and what's happened to them. But what does Mawla Amir say when he is struck? Remember, from beginning to end, a life with God. He says, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. By the Lord of the Kaaba, I have succeeded. It is reported that the best doctor that was available, the best one to treat wounds was called. His name was Athir ibn Umar as-Sakuni. He was called to have a look at what had inflicted Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he comes to him, he has a look at the split head. He has a look at the poison that is seeping into the brain of Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen. When he sees the extent that poison has gone in, he says to him, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, make your will now. Make your will, for the inflicted wound has gone into the depths of your head." Now Amir al-Mu'mineen calls Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. And he says to them that do not kill anyone apart from the killer should I die. Make sure that if I die, you only strike him once. One strike for one strike. And he says that do not mutilate his body. For I heard from the Messenger of Allah say that never mutilate the body of any creature, even the body of a dog. But I say, oh Mawla Amir al-Mu'mineen, if only the Yazidis had heard what you had told Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, if only they had abided by the instruction of Rasulullah not to mutilate the body of anyone. For on the plains of Karbala, it was not sufficient for the Yazidis to have killed your son, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen. For after they had killed him, Umar ibn Sa'd calls out to his people. He says to them, who amongst you volunteers to ride their horses over the chest and back of Abu Abdullah? 10 people get up. They climb onto their horses. They go back and forth, trampling over every single bone of the blessed body of Sayyid al-Shuhada. They mutilate his body. They crush every single bone of his body. And then they reach to such an extent that Lady Zainab on the 11th of Muharram, she describes what she sees in these words. She says, Ya Muhammadah, Hadha al-Husayn bil-Ara. This is Hussein lying there bodied, Murammalun bid-Dima. He is covered in blood. Muqatta'ul Ada. His limbs have been severed. That's what they did to Abu Abdullah. But now Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, he reports that Imam Ali called all his family members. He bid them farewell. He says that we looked at the blessed lips of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We saw that he's doing the dhikr of Allah. We brought him food, but he denied the food. And then he calls his children to him and he says a special farewell to them. But amongst them, there was an exclusive special farewell to Abu Abdullah. He calls him to him and he says to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, Anta shaheedu hadhihi al-ummah. Oh Imam Hussein, you are the shaheed and the martyr of this nation. Of course, Imam Hassan was also shaheed. All the Imams were shaheed, but he singles out the martyrdom of Imam Hussein because it was the greatest of all martyrdoms. But now we are told that Amir al-Mu'mineen, he now closes his eyes for a moment, then he opens them. Then he says that I see the message of Allah. I see Hamza, my uncle. I see my brother Ja'far, and I see the companions, and they're all saying, Oh Ali, come to us quickly. Oh Ali, we are eager for you to come to us. Now Amir al-Mu'mineen is in the last moments of his blessed life. Amir al-Mu'mineen is constantly doing zikr. He recites the Shahadatain. Now he faces towards Qibla. He closes his eyes. He extends his arms and his legs, and he says these last words of his: Ashhadu an la ilaha illa wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And now his blessed soul leaves the world. But Mu'mineen, I will leave you with this one final incident. This tells us what great personality, what father we have lost on this night. Amir al-Mu'mineen, it is reported that after Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, they buried him. They were returning home. When they were returning home, they see an old man. This old man had become blind and he was crying. Imam Hassan asks him, he says to him, why are you crying? He says to him that there used to be a man who would come to me. He would come to me every evening bringing me milk and flour. But it's been 3 days now since he hasn't come to me. So Imam Hassan says to him that, who was this man? He says, I don't know. Imam Hassan says to him, well, describe him to me. He says, well, I never saw his face because I'm blind. But let me tell you how I felt towards him. He says that to me, he was as kind as a mother is to a child. To me, he treated me with such kindness and he looked after me. And he would laugh with me. Imam Hassan says to him, that was our father and he has become shaheed. By the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen, we ask you to accept the following prayers. Oh Allah, protect our Imam and hasten his appearance. Oh Allah, bring relief to all those in difficult situations. Oh Allah, forgive us and our forefathers for our sins. Oh Allah, decree for us what is best for our dunya and our akhirah. Oh Allah, bless this center and all those who frequent it. Oh Allah, enable us to live and die with the teachings of the Quran and Yaqub Bayt. And oh Allah, enable us to live and die with the wilayah of Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein,